Hi there, and welcome back to the Garden of Epiphany, a women's health and wellness oasis. I'm your host, Raven Epiphany, and I'm so glad you decided to join us for week 4, the final week of our Women's Herstory month series. So let's do a recap really quickly before we jump into today's topic. So in week 1, we started part 1 of refreshing your menstrual cycle, and we talked about choosing healthier products. I even took you guys shopping with me at Target to show you some of the products discussed. And so if you missed that, make sure you go back and check it out. In week 2, we did part 2 of refreshing your menstrual cycle, and I gave an intro to cycle syncing, which is a technique you can use to improve your menstrual experience throughout, not just during the 1 week that you're actually bleeding, but also throughout the rest of the month. And then in week 3, we wrapped up with part 3 of refreshing your menstrual cycle. And I just kind of gave an overview of what's in my menstrual toolkit and gave some suggestions for what you may be able to put into yours. Again, contributing to hopefully you having better and more pleasant menstrual cycles. And so, week 4, we are wrapping up Women's Herstory Month talking about our vaginas and how to keep them healthy. We are going to have a candid, or play on words, candida conversation about vaginal pH. And so let's jump right into it. So what is pH? pH actually stands for potential hydrogen, and it just represents how acidic or basic, aka alkaline, something is. And so when we're talking about pH, it's a range from 0 to 14. Your lower numbers are going to be your more acidic measurements, and then 7 is in the middle, that's neutral, and then your higher numbers will be your more basic or alkaline measurements. And so when we're talking about vaginal pH, that's basically how acidic or basic, aka alkaline, your vagina is. And so the average pH of our vaginas is about 4.5, which is a bit more on the acidic side. It is said that it can increase up to 5 as we age, but 4.5 is, about the average. Again, both of these numbers are on the acidic side of the pH measurement scale. And so, factors that impact your pH can include menstruation. When we are bleeding, our menstrual blood, the pH of that is about 7.5, so it has a more alkaline pH than the regular pH of our vagina, so that can kind of alter your vaginal pH during that time. Antibiotics can also affect our vaginal pH. Because they are meant to kill bacteria that's causing an infection somewhere in your body, they can also kill the healthy bacteria that's in your vagina, which can throw off your vaginal pH. Semen can also throw off your vaginal pH because it is another alkaline substance, and so when it enters the vagina, it can definitely alter your pH. Douching is something that can alter your vaginal pH. When you are flushing your vagina, especially when you're using something like vinegar, which is acidic, or baking soda, which is very basic or alkaline, this could definitely alter the pH. Your clothing can also have an impact. So the material that your clothing is made out of and how tight your clothing is can definitely impact how balanced your vaginal pH is. And last but not least, your diet can definitely impact your vaginal pH. And this includes both foods and drinks because they affect the types and numbers of bacteria and fungi that exist in the vagina. And we'll get a little bit more into that later. So, symptoms of an imbalanced vaginal pH. So, you may experience strong vaginal odor, usually like a fishy smell. You may have gray or green discharge. There may be itching, swelling or irritation, pain or burning during sex, and or burning during urination are all symptoms of vaginal pH imbalance. There are 3 common vaginal infections that we're going to get into. All of these fall under the umbrella of vaginitis, which is basically any vaginal infection that results from an imbalance of vaginal bacteria. So bacterial vaginosis is a vaginal infection resulting from an imbalance in vaginal bacteria. Trichomoniasis is a very common STD that is caused by a single-celled parasite. And last but not least, yeast infections are a fungal infection that result from an overgrowth in Candida, which is a fungus. Bacterial vaginosis, the symptoms that you may experience if you have bacterial vaginosis are burning during urination, fishy smell, which becomes even stronger after sex, itching, as well as thin white, gray, or green discharge. If you have bacterial vaginosis, this is something that should be treated by a doctor, and they may prescribe either an oral antibiotic medication or a medical gel that you would insert into your vagina. And if you do undergo this treatment, you want to make sure you take the full, however many days they prescribe it for, to make sure that the infection is gone. Trichomoniasis, the symptoms of this may be smelly green or yellow discharge. You may have itching, burning, redness, or soreness in your vagina. There may be pain when you are peeing or having sex, and you may experience bleeding after sex. This is also something that you want to get treated by a doctor, and they will prescribe you an oral antibiotic medication to treat this disease. And again, same thing, you want to make sure you take the full course of your antibiotics to make sure you get rid of the infection. Last but not least are yeast infections. So with yeast infections, these are very, very common. I think I read that about 75% of women will experience at least one yeast infection during their lifetime. So don't think that, this is something that's the end of the world if it happens. Like, this is very common. And because there's so many factors that can throw this off, like your diet, it's common, essentially. So your symptoms may be itching and irritation in the vagina or the vulva, which is the area around the vagina. You may experience burning during sex or urination. There may be swelling or redness of the vulva, again, that part outside of the vagina. You may have thick, white, and odor-free discharge, which resembles cottage cheese. And lastly, you may also experience watery vaginal discharge. So for this one, you can be prescribed an oral antifungal medication, but you also could be either prescribed or use an over-the-counter treatment, which would be a medical suppository that you would insert into your vagina. So this is your monostats, your boric acids, and whatever other medication that your doctor may prescribe at the office. So, tips for maintaining a healthy vaginal pH. The do's. So you want to make sure you are wearing cotton underwear and breathable clothing as much as possible. You want to wipe from front to back when you are using the restroom, and even, when you are showering, etc. You want to use a gentle pH balanced feminine wash, or just water for those who have super sensitive vaginas. When you are washing, you don't want to use anything that's super scented, that's super strong. Easy does it. The more gentle, the better. You want to switch out your washcloth more often, and if you can, use one washcloth for your vaginal area that's separate from anything that you're using with any other body washes or anything like that. And I'll also put a bullet point here and say, if you have a super sensitive vagina, you may want to consider using a free and clear laundry detergent as well for when you're washing your intimates, so that you're not adding extra scents or chemicals to that area that may irritate it. You want to drink lots of water. You want to use condoms during sex and wash your sex toys after every use. You want to get tested and have your partner or partners get tested as well. And then you want to take probiotic supplements and or eat foods that are high in probiotics, like yogurt, pickles, kombucha, buttermilk, miso soup, and many more that you can look up. The don'ts. There are only a few don'ts that I will cover today. You want to avoid douching, as mentioned earlier. That can definitely throw off your vaginal pH. You want to avoid tight clothes as much as possible. You want to change your wet clothes as soon as possible after swimming or working out. So don't sit in those clothes for a long period of time. That may allow extra bacteria or extra yeast to grow in that area, and we do not want that. And you want to minimize your intake of sugary or processed foods like white breads and pastas, sweets, and alcohol. So that concludes this video. I hope that you were able to learn something that helps you to better take care of your vagina. If you missed any of our Women's Herstory Month videos, I encourage you to go back and check them out. They will be linked in the description, and you can also just check them out on our channel at The Garden of Epiphany here on YouTube. And until next time, I hope you have a healthy and wholesome week. Bye.